And what is happening in Israel is the growth of a state within a state. It's like a tumor. Israel has its own tumor. It consists of members of the Israeli society, but nonetheless, it is forming its own state, and it has a mind of its own. You're seeing Israel gradually fragmenting. All right, everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about this absolutely crazy story that just occurred in Israel recently. A bunch of fanatics raided 2 different detention camps in Israel. So what happened was there is this camp in Israel. It's near the Negev, so it's close to Gaza. It's called Sde Teiman. And this is where they put a lot of Gazans in to be prisoners and to be interrogated and tortured. Sde Teiman is a place that is just notorious for torture. So there was this Palestinian man who was tortured, and the story is that he was sexually tortured. And the torturers damaged his anus. That's right, they damaged his anus. And this is, of course, against the law. And so a number of police officers arrived at the Sde Teiman camp to arrest those who were charged with this crime, or who were accused of doing this crime. So they came to the camp, and a confrontation ensues. A confrontation breaks out, and a whole bunch of right-wing lunatics, hundreds of them, riled up by right-wing leaders like Ben Gvir and his ilk, arrived at the Sde Teiman camp, and they stormed it. They stormed the camp. Now, there were journalists who were there, and there was one woman journalist. I want to read to you guys an excerpt from this article that was published today by the Times of Israel. And it says here that, according to the Ynet news site, several journalists attempting to cover the riot were attacked by protesters, including its own reporter, Ilana Kuriel, and police were needed to step in to protect her. And this is what she had to say about her being assaulted. She said, "They pushed me, spit on me, called me a slut, the Arabs whore, traitor," she recalled. "They threw my phone twice. I'm in tears." And these are the types of people that Israel is dealing with. These are the types of people who are growing in numbers within Israel. And they have already become a serious voice in Israel. They're fanatics. These are people who hate Christ. They wouldn't mind killing you for preaching Jesus. These are just absolute maniacs, just complete maniacs, these people. But they got the people who were allegedly involved in sexually torturing this man. They arrested them, and then they transported them to another detention center for questioning, or another base for questioning. This base is known as Beit Lid. That's what it's called, Beit Lid. So the fanatics followed them there. They went to Beit Lid. And they stormed Beit Lid. They even made their own little checkpoint at Beit Lid. And they were searching for cars trying to enter the camp. And they were searching the cars for reservists who may have been arrested. Well, hold on a second. That's the police's job to arrest people, to detain people, to take them to jail or to a base for questioning. Why are you obstructing the job of the police? Why are you obstructing? Why are you doing this? It's because you want to become the police. That's what this is. And what is happening in Israel is the growth of a state within a state. It's like a tumor in your body growing, and it's destroying you. A cancerous tumor consists of cells that have gone rogue, so to speak. They have been corrupted, so to speak, and they will destroy your body. Well, Israel has its own tumor. It consists of members who are, it consists of members of the Israeli society. But nonetheless, it is forming its own state, and it has a mind of its own. And it's evil. It's destructive. And this is what Israel is going through. Israel is going through a violent rift. And these people are violent. They're complete lunatics, these people. They talk about, these very rioters, they talk about how they need to destroy all the enemies of Israel, those who are outside of Israel, speaking of the Palestinians, and those who are within Israel, speaking of the Jews who are against them in some way, who disapprove of what they're doing, or really Jews who are just simply doing their jobs and arresting people for alleged crimes, which is the job of the police. And they're angry about what? What are these people angry about? In this case, they're angry that some reservists were arrested. Now, if someone told me, Ted, some police officers were arrested, the first question that I would ask is, why were they arrested? Well, it turns out that these cops gang raped a man after arresting him. They put him in handcuffs and they gang raped him. The last thing on my mind would be to start a riot in support of these officers. So these lunatics, these fanatics, they heard that some reservists were arrested. And they were told, they knew that the charge was that they sexually tortured a Palestinian man. Instead of thinking, okay, let's wait for a trial. Let's see if they are found guilty or not guilty. Let's wait for the results. No. Let's go riot to defend people who have been charged with sexually torturing a man. I mean, how sick do you have to be? It's sick. These people are sick. They're demonic. This is demonism.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי,
הכל.
מצוין.
הכל.
זה מה שרציתי.
הכל האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
אוקיי.
טוב.
יש דברים שלא עושים.
Speaking of these rioters, it says here that the mobilization of Itamar Ben-Gvir, who's a big member of the government in Israel, he's in charge of the police, he's a fanatic lunatic, he wouldn't mind crucifying Christ. It says here, the mobilization of Itamar Ben-Gvir and the people of Otzma Yehudit. Otzma Yehudit is a major party within the Knesset. It is a fanatic party, Jewish fanatical party. Otzma Yehudit literally means Jewish power. That's what that means. So imagine a party in America calling itself white power. This is what you're dealing with here. So it says here that the mobilization of Itamar Ben-Gvir and the people of Otzma Yehudit to defend the suspects in the field, as well as the announcement by the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Security Committee, MK, member of the Knesset, Yuli Edelstein, that there will be an urgent discussion on the issue in which the conduct of the law enforcement authorities, not that of the rioting soldiers, will be examined. So you had soldiers who were involved in this riot. Again, these officers went to the Sde Teiman camp to arrest these reservists, and there was a confrontation. Things became acrimonious, and eventually violence ensued. And they were rioters, they were fanatics who came to the Sde Teiman, who were dressed in military uniform and who were armed. So it really does show a split in the Israeli society. The fact is that you have soldiers who are involved in this rift, and that is what's happening in Israel. You have soldiers who are involved in this rift. They are really working to create a new society within Israel that sees itself as independent of the official government. You're seeing Israel gradually fragmenting. And it reminds me of the, what's it called? The Netzah Yehuda, which is Judah's Victory Army or Victory Battalion. These are soldiers in the IDF who are fanatics, who are ultra-Orthodox, and they believe that the rules don't apply to them. And that's why you'll read stories about Netzah soldiers. I call them Nazis. You know, they're the Nazis of Israel, Netzah Nazis. That's why you can read soldiers. That's why you can read stories of Netzah soldiers throwing flash bang grenades into random cars and things like that, or just at random cars who are driving beside them. I mean, it's pretty. They're pretty sick people. They don't mind killing innocent people, brutalizing innocent people. It's sickening. It is sickening. But they believe that the rules do not apply to them. They don't give a damn about the rules because they believe that they are the true Jews, that they are the true Israel, and that the Jews who disapprove of their actions and of their ideology are traitorous Jews. Now, going back to the excerpt here from Haaretz, it talks about how these fanatical politicians like Ben-Gvir and Yuli Edelstein want to investigate the conduct of the police officers who arrested the reservists in the base. They're not talking about investigating the conduct of the rioters or of the soldiers who were involved in the riot. No. They want to investigate the police officers who arrested the reservists who were charged with sexually torturing a man. That right there bespeaks of the evil of these people unto itself. You don't really need any further commentary to know why that is just sickening and evil. And Israel is gradually fragmenting. It's gradually going through a rift. And eventually there's going to be a threshold in which everything is just going to implode. These fanatics are the very people who led the Jewish revolt against the Roman Empire. And if you read about the Judean war with Rome, you will read about how the Judeans were not only fighting the Romans, but they were fighting each other, and they were butchering one another. Because you had these different factions within Judea, and each faction thought that they were the righteous ones, and they saw their Jewish enemies as traitors. And you're seeing this mentality alive and well in Israel, and it's only growing. And I want to read to you guys an excerpt from this article from Haaretz. It says that there was an MK, a member of the Knesset, who was involved in this. And it says here, MK Tali Gottlieb, a member of the Likud party, Netanyahu's party, and MK Yitzhak Cruiser, who's a member of the Otzma Yehudit, the Jewish Power Party, also arrived at the scene, who threatened the chief military prosecutor in his words, quote, "Be careful. Take your hands off our fighters," he said at the demonstration. MK Limor Sonhar Melech, a member of the Jewish Power Party, or Otzma Yehudit, also came to the scene and said, quote, "The Haftar is a crime. The people of Israel will fight against enemies from outside and enemies who try to destroy us at home." In other words, we will destroy you. They're literally threatening violence against other Jews. It's not just, oh, they are our fellow Jews, so we have to be nice with them. No. They're literally saying, we must kill the Jews who disapprove of our actions. This is a presaging sign of a civil war within Israel. And it is really, all this information really harkens back to the insanity that plagued Judea 40 years or so after the crucifixion. I mean, it was already there in the time of Christ. Christ was fighting against it, and it was germinating. 40 years after the crucifixion, this wicked fruit that had been already growing in the time of Christ was in fruition. It was fruiting, and the fruit was rotten. The fruit was rotten. And they butchered one another. It wasn't just Jews versus Romans. That's a bunch of, that's half the story. And people love to isolate that part of the story and just make it about Jews versus Romans, when in reality, much of the war, you could say even 50% of the war, at least, was Jews killing each other. Jews killing one another. And that spirit is still alive today. And why is it still alive? It's because they have still remained on the path of denying their Messiah. And so the spirit of Antichrist possesses them. The spirit of the Antichrist lingers within their society, and it's there. It's there, awaiting for the opportunity to strike and to rile up the masses to bloodshed. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.